NYU, we've been part of the real world from day one. We have received an education that has been both focused and practical, broad and visionary. We are uniquely qualified to make tomorrow all that it can be.
When you see an environment around an educational institution full of questions, then you know that learning is going to happen. What stimulates learning, in the end, is human experience in the form of a question so provocative that people can't resist trying to answer it.
Today we want to just shift our attention to another important figure in this period who was not American, and that's Alexis de Tocqueville. History leads you to ask questions, and those questions are so very, very important. The what, the how, the why things happened, or why things are the way they are. Why should there be a tension between equality and freedom? Craig?
Americans would rather be equal than free. He found in his study they're more likely to want that because to them that is freedom in some ways.
He said one man could not be free enough because the majority would basically like swallow him up.
That's a very good observation. You could have a society that's emphasizing equality so strongly that your equality might actually abrogate freedom. He sees a whole past, he sees a whole future. And I think that's one of the remarkable things about him. He gives us a sense of the historical perspective, which is really so important to us.
And whenever you use the library, you're walking in the footsteps of a young English instructor named Thomas Wolfe, who made a commitment, even as he was writing gigantic novels, to read every book in the library one by one.
All of our students that are in college nowadays are going to be graduating, getting close to the 21st century. So really anyone who wants to do anything who's going to college now must have a fair idea of what's going on in science. I spend practically all my time talking with students, feeling out what their interests are, what sort of things will satisfy them. The most important thing, I think, is not to make the students' decisions for them, and not to try to. And I'm constantly saying to students, well, I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I can help you find the answers to your questions, but I mustn't answer them. In the sciences nowadays, there's tremendous potential, tremendous opportunities for students of any area of interest at all. I would say just about anyone who has any interest whatsoever in any scientific area can find something very, very satisfying and challenging.
Our record label at NYU is called the Music Business and Technology Record Company, for short, MBT Record Company. And we have 3 releases to date, which we're very excited about. It actually gets the students involved. They're making all the calls. They're doing all of the engineering. They're coordinating all of the production schedules. They're auditioning all the talents. There's just a wealth of talent out there, and NYU provides all of that. The night scene in the village, as far as the jazz clubs like the Village Gate or the Cat Club or Danceteria or the Limelight, I mean, this is where they find their talent. They come in, they record it, they engineer it, they mix it, do everything. And then we have the business students, as far as the business track, come in and they market it, and they sell it, and they distribute it. We place students in, whether it's record companies or concert management organizations or concert promotion or studios, and they get that bridge between the educational environment and the working world. Students are there in the door during the internship. Next thing you know, a year later, the possibility of a job. And that's worked for several students here.
That's a wrap.
And technology itself is of no value. You have to be able to draw people into using technology and making it useful for people. And that's what I think I do, and what my department does. We teach people how to use technology as a useful business tool. In one class, I'll present a concept and I'll talk about how this might be solved and how we might work with it. And the next class, we'll actually go into the lab and have a chance to solve it, to do it, to try it. And in the lab, students realize that they can try a number of things, and a lot of them aren't going to work. But the only way you learn is by trying. Okay, let's go back and modify. We'll just keep playing with it. That's how we debug.
So leave the display first and then the screen?
Try and see what happens. One thing I always tell my students when they finish my class, they can be certain that when they get on the job, they're not going to have to be intimidated by the technology or be concerned of how they're going to use the PC.
Studying at Tisch helped me to pick and choose what is going to work best for me as an actress. Because you're exposed to many different philosophies and you have to learn to take what you can use and leave behind what you can't. Student productions are directed by students, designed by students, the box office is run by students. So you have a chance to really produce something of your own.
And pay it.
All students in the age in which people normally go to college are involved in a lot of self-reflection. They're wondering who they are, what they're doing, where they're going, what the meaning of all this is. These are really fundamentally religious questions. When we bring up those kinds of ideas, students are already engaged. The way I operate, the way I think, the way I am, is oriented toward a future possibility. Now we might ask, well, what if those future possibilities are realized? Immediately, there is another possibility beyond that, and another beyond that. We never finally exhaust those possibilities. There's an ontological difference between us and the coffee cup. That is, the coffee cup is in a very different way in which we are. It doesn't have all these possibilities. Now, the inexhaustibility of those possibilities is, for Heidegger, one of the most crucial elements of human existence.
Probably the first day of teaching was one of the most nerve-wracking days of my life. But after about a week, things just kind of set in motion and my life kind of incorporated teaching and I really began to enjoy it. Actually, 2 semesters at NYU are spent in actual contact with students. One of the semesters involves observation and the other semester involves total submersion in the student teaching itself. The great thing about New York is that there are so many different schools and such an incredible diversity of opportunity that you can really choose any school you want.
Into
Stern is the only school offering behavioral simulations to undergraduate seniors in particular. We actually recreate the entire company the way it would be seen by those managers in it. The correspondence, the market research studies, the short memo that a boss might send a subordinate saying, I need more information on this. Well, we construct all of those pieces as part of the simulation, and then we distribute them to the people in roles in the simulation, much the way they are in the actual world.
If we considered acquiring them, which is the one option, maybe it would be able to use that packaging and those production procedures for Richard's Gourmet and other things, so that might be a benefit.
Theoretically, it is an amazing idea, and that it's undoubtedly a huge potential market.
I know we're going to have to try to have them involved in the production process, mainly because of the cultural aspect.
What makes for a successful business person or a successful business is in learning how to do things such that the idea moves from concept to practice.
one of the great benefits of teaching in New York City is that we have at our disposal these extraordinary collections of the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Brooklyn Museum. And I'm personally, as an archaeologist, a very object-oriented person. So I greatly enjoy and I consider it essential to teach in front of objects themselves. This piece, which shows a veiled dancer, has become known to us as the Baker Dancer and is a bequest to the Metropolitan Museum in 1970. And it typifies for us this great Hellenistic moment of the torsion, the spiraling composition of a dancer caught in mid-spin. The ability to know how to look at something and derive from that looking some understanding, some pleasure, some enlightenment. This is what enriches our lives.
But there is no environment around the university like Greenwich Village, and so it's a campus we don't have to invent. We live and breathe within the fabric of the city of New York. These are students who represent the spectrum. They want to move in the professions. They want to move in the arts. They want to move in business. And we want to make sure that we give them the tools to do just that.